started hooking up. We started having sex. His cat came in the room. It comes under the bed, under my back.
Right.
I lean back on the cat. The cat scratches at the bed. The waterbed pops. The water starts going everywhere.
Get out of here.
I'm not effing with you. I'm covered. And waterbeds take a long time to pop, but the cat's like in there scratching, drowning in the water.
Okay.
The water starts going out the door. His mom comes running in.
And you're buck naked.
Soaking wet,
Right.
buck naked. She comes running in. I'm trying to hold the patches of water.
Only you this could happen
I
to,
know.
by the way. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to One-on-One with me, Kristian Harloff. Do you watch Collider live? You don't? Well, you're dead to me. If you do, then you know that Roxy Striar is my co-host of that show. She is sometimes a polarizing figure, sometimes a hysterical figure, sometimes an endearing figure. She's everything. She's a utility belt, and she is just one of my favorite people. I love her because she's unfiltered. You know that about her. And we really got into her family history, talked about her, what she like, what an interesting story that she had. If you know and you watch Collider Live, Roxy will tell a story in the middle of the show, and it just, there's jaws open because of, oh my God, the things that she has gone through in her life and things that just happened to only Roxy. And this entire episode is an only Roxy type of episode because she tells stories and they're mind-blowing. Just listen to her. There's things I didn't know about her, and there's definitely things you didn't know about her. Check it out. Subscribe to the Apple Podcast feed. If you don't know already, you can find all the shows from the Riley Roundtable to interviews from Perry and Roca, Ryan Satin, myself, tons of interviews, long form for your ride to work, or if you're at the gym, wherever it is. Go ahead, subscribe, leave a comment, rate, do all that stuff. You know at this point what to do with podcasts. I mean, come on, what are you, stupid? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to One-on-One with me, Kristian Harloff, and thank you so much for listening to the show. Make sure that you subscribe to the Apple Podcast feed. We're going to be on Spotify soon. When? I don't know, but sooner is better than not ever, right? We'll figure it out. There are a lot of cool guests that we've had, will have, and it's not just me on this feed. I know that Riley does a lot of one-on-ones. You can get the Riley Roundtable. There's also John Roca does some interviews here. Perry Nemiroff does some. Ryan Satin does some. So you can get all of our one-on-one interviews that we do on this feed. So make sure you do that. If you want to watch us on the podcast feed, you can do that also. If you go over to the YouTube channel, Collider Podcast, subscribe over there. Leave comments if you want to see our lovely faces. But if you just like hearing our voices, then do it over on the audio side. Here we go. I am ready to rock here one-on-one with a very close friend that I am happy to say that. Someone who is that we've gotten closer over the years. I've always had a really good relationship, but it's gotten stronger over the last couple of months. She is my friend. She is my co-host on Collider Live. She is an overall firecracker. You never know what she's going to say. She never just doesn't ever take the gloves off. She's ready to rock. It's Roxy Striar. Hello, Roxy.
What's a girl got to do to get an invite onto Kristian Harloff's One-on-One?
You just did it.
It's taken a long time, though.
But not really. If you think about it, it's like you wait for the show to build.
You just did it.
You got to wait for the show to build. And then it's like now the people are actually listening to it and want to see that. Now you bring in the heavy hitters.
Oh, we built up to me.
Built up to you.
So everybody before.
You see how I'm married, right? I'm a bit of bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, tell the truth. But it's lovely to have you here. You seem like you're in a good mood.
Oh, gosh. One of those already. We're starting with it. I'm in an okay mood.
Yeah? What kind of mood are you in today? Why just okay?
I think it's just
Traveling?
it's like a waves. You know, you go through emotional waves every day, ups and downs. So, you know, been better, been worse.
Yeah, and I love that. And we'll talk about the better and the worse because that's why you're here today.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how you had your ride. If you listen to Collider Live, Roxy had a ride with Brett to the airport where she learned about an hour and a half together. She learned a lot about him. Well, this is about an hour and a half. And I know some things about you. I don't know everything.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what you do know about me and what you don't, because I feel like with you, I've picked up things over the years, but sometimes we don't expand on it because it's kind of we move forward and it's like,
I was thinking about that today, though, with myself. It's like, you guys just know this version of me. Like, to where, like, I was thinking.
There's a whole different you?
100%. Like, where you're, what, 26, 27?
27.
27. And I was thinking of myself as 27. And I'm like, the 27-year-old me doing what I do here now, I don't know if I would have lasted.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Because what?
because I dated a lot, right? And like I think in this space too, I would have wound up like and gotten into a place to where it was like I was always really honest with everybody though too. It was one of those things to where when I was doing stand-up comedy, it would be like I'm dating someone or we're sleeping around, whatever. We'll call it what it is. It's one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was always honest. Like people would ask, and I just think that I want to get myself into a thing to where it's like, oh, you were seeing this person, but now you're seeing this person. That always happened in the comedy scene. And
You don't think you would have looked very good, you mean?
Probably not, because I was never really looking for a relationship, you know. And it's like,
Which is fine.
And you know, and especially, I'm so happy that I found my wife and that I have. I'm just a different.
How old were you when you found her?
31. 31? Yeah, around 31, 32, around that area. But yeah, it was just like I'm just a totally different person completely. But that's not me. It's not me to do. That's going to happen though, where
know.
you're going to do the actual one-on-one with me.
I'm getting info right now.
Right
ammo.
now, and it's true. Well, at the end of this interview, I'm going to let you have a couple of shots. You have a couple of questions that you want to ask.
Okay.
But this is not about me. This is about you. And let's start about. So I know that you're a self-proclaimed masshole. What you call yourself? Born in Massachusetts.
Born in Los Angeles.
Born in Los Angeles.
Cedar Sinai.
Look at that.
Kind of wild, right?
You're an LA kid. So my wife, she was a New York kid, but lived in LA a lot.
I lived here for 2 years. The first 2 years of my life, I was the only one I have an older brother, a younger sister, and I'm the only one who was born here. And they both were born back in Boston.
So all same mom?
All same mom, same dad.
All same mom, same dad. Okay, so the reason I ask is your dad was a rock star, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so that's
And now he's got the 20-something-year-old girlfriend, but
right.
at the time.
Right, but the question is fair. A rock star could have 75 kids from 75 different women. So
Yeah, very true.
let's talk about your dad then. And so tell me the first thing. I know he was a rock star, but that's about as far as I know.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat for sure.
No shit.
I always say amazing person to have in my life. As a dad, really weird.
Yeah.
It's been a really weird road. But as a guy, he's an awesome person.
Okay.
He grew up incredibly wealthy, very, very wealthy. His dad owned more land and was one of the biggest real estate people east of the Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Do people say that anymore?
You just did?
East of the Mississippi.
It's the east of Mississippi.
There's definitely a different way that they measure that now. But he was in real estate, and so he
Cashed in early.
Yeah. And so my dad had a pretty easy time with that growing up. Obviously, different issues, family issues and stuff, but money-wise, he was set. So he decided, I'm going to be in the rock and roll industry, and I can do that because I have something other people don't have, which is money.
Right.
And that's kind of what you need if you are that young, that big of a jerk, and need to be signing people, promoting things.
That big of a jerk? What do you mean? So he's
Just like he was the number one. There was some magazine I saw, most eligible bachelor, and he was such a bachelor, seeing everybody, doing the whole.
Right.
Not, he's a great guy, but I just mean wheeling and dealing. Yeah. Whatever you call that.
He's a womanizer?
Do people say that?
No, like a little bit.
No, he's definitely not a womanizer.
Not a womanizer.
And his dad really, really was.
But he was a player.
So.
Player and womanizer are different.
Yeah, I think it more was like I don't care at all about anything but business.
Okay,
So
that was, I would categorize myself as that for a long time, so I understand.
Yeah,
I relate to that.
It wasn't like just effing people over left and right that were
of
women,
course
but
not.
it kind of was just like it didn't matter.
But he was upfront and honest, the same type of things. Where it's like, look, I'm not looking for that. This is what I'm looking to do. I'm more focused on the goal, which is
totally. I mean, when he was with Aerosmith, which I'm jumping the gun a little bit,
Yes.
but he was dating Joe Perry's sister for a while, and then like a bunch of different rock stars. It kind of all started catching up to him at some point because he was with all the rock stars and their sisters and their wives and their girlfriends and the scene. He was in the scene.
He was in the scene, but how? So, what did he play guitar?
No, my dad was a concert promoter and band manager.
Oh, okay. I see.
So he was not a rock star. He was on the business side of things.
He was in the business, and that now explains a lot about you.
Yeah, so that's who he rolled with, and that's what he was doing.
I understand. Okay, so he was promoting all the tours, but he was in the life.
Yeah,
he was in the life.
Hardcore in the life.
That says a lot. Now, so he gets involved in that because did he ever play music?
Never once.
Never once.
Never sang, never played.
But just loved the scene.
Yeah.
Just loved the scene, got caught up in it all. And
Totally.
so he managed Aerosmith?
So he put back together Aerosmith after they
Wow.
broke up.
In the 90s?
He was managing Joe Perry, and then he put them. It was the
see.
80s.
Okay,
put them back together because Steven Tyler and Joe Perry and a couple band members, I believe, had been all using for a while, and then they were clean, and they didn't want to like half-heartedly get back together. They didn't want to announce it to anybody, so he owned a country club at the time called Glen Ellen.
Yeah.
And they all came and started rehearsing there, and they were secretly rehearsing and gearing up.
So he gave them the place and the venue to kind of
Exactly.
I see.
And so then he started promoting them, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC.
Wow. So give me some of the lists. So that's a pretty big list all in
Yeah.
itself.
He also promoted one of Muhammad Ali's last fights, got him out of retirement.
Against who? Spinks? You remember?
I do know, but I don't know. It's on a mantle somewhere.
Okay, that's fair. But that's
Isn't that bad? I should know.
yeah, that's all right. But look, there's a lot. That's a lot. So did he ever get caught up? I mean, you said he got caught up in the scene, but any stuff. And then you were an open book, and you've talked about this stuff too. But what about drugs, alcohol?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He got caught up in it all.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was really caught up in never heroin.
Okay.
Which is the thing that if you can avoid, it's the one that to avoid. So
Right.
a lot of his friends were caught up in it, but definitely cocaine. My mom and dad had a big problem with. He was using a lot, and she was smoking cigarettes. And I think they finally made a deal like no more cigarettes, no more blow.
Oh wow.
Which
were they doing it while she was pregnant?
no, she wasn't. She never was using coke. She didn't like it.
Okay.
Panicky.
But she was smoking.
Same with me, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Too panicky. But she was smoking. Not while she was pregnant. I think she did smoke a little weed while she was pregnant, which is why they say my siblings have little heads. I don't know if that's true or not. But.
Right. Well, where did he meet your mom?
So they met. He was running Glen Ellen Country Club back east, and she was the snack girl.
Snack girl, really?
Yeah,
And
she was the snack girl.
Wow, and you just
So
won him over.
So no, not at all.
Okay.
They started dating, and she was probably like 21, and he was probably, I don't know, 23 at the time, and he was already like, he had already promoted Muhammad Ali's last fight, like brought him out of it. He was,
How old was he when he started getting into this?
20. He didn't go to college, or he went somewhere for
really
like a year.
Street savvy, huh?
Yeah, he was just really, and the thing is, and I always tell people this, he's amazing and he's brilliant with business and he was so talented, but he had money, and it's a different game when you can walk into Muhammad Ali with $250,000 in cash and say, here's why you should have a meeting with me, than when you don't.
Right.
So it was a
and it doesn't hurt him if
advantage.
it doesn't hurt him if nothing happens.
If nothing happens.
It was an investment that he took a shot at and it didn't work.
Exactly.
Because he still got the bank account.
Because when people look at that and they're like, well, if he's doing that at 21, I'm like, but he was bankrolled for a long
He had
time
resources,
until he got completely cut off. But that's a different story. So they met. She was the snack bar person, and they were dating. And then my mom's father was the vice president of Marshall's, the department store. So he was moving it out to the West Coast. And so she moved to the West Coast.
I see.
And she got married to somebody else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At 21.
No, she was like 23 at that time.
Oh, okay.
And so they were dating.
So she met your dad. She was dating.
They were dating.
Moved to California. Married someone
somebody
else at 23.
who happened to be her cousin.
Say what?
I know.
Wait, first cousin?
It was her first cousin once removed. Very, very unclear to this day on what was going on in her mind and how that happened, but that's the story.
Wow.
He's at all of my family
No
reunions.
kids? No kids with
No,
him?
no,
Okay.
definitely not.
Okay.
They got married. People thought it was
I
weird.
have a brother who's a third arm sticking out of his head.
That would be amazing.
All right.
They got married, and then a couple years later, they got divorced.
Okay.
She was like, moved back east.
Okay.
Rekindled with my dad.
Just found him when.
They were
Where
living.
was he then?
He was still in Massachusetts.
Okay.
She was in maybe New York, New Jersey. They started commuting back and forth to see each other. And then finally, after 2 years of doing that or a year of doing that, my mom looked at him and was like, propose or I'm done.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to lose you. So, yeah, let's get married.
So he did. He was in.
Yeah, so they were probably around 27 at the time.
All right, 27.
27, 29.
Well, if he was 29, she's 27,
Yeah.
2 years apart. Your brother is firstborn.
Yeah, so he's 2 years older than me.
Okay, so so at what point? How long before they wait to have kids?
It was like a year.
So they were quick.
Yeah, they were really quick. They had
So they were in love.
super effing in love. And like my mom and dad were crazy.
Yeah.
Like my dad still is. They're crazy,
Yeah.
that kind of love where like throwing, fighting, passion. Like it was not. I did not grow up with
Your parents?
It was not like, oh, I wonder if mom and dad love each other. Like they
knew
were.
Yeah.
But like in the most fighting but ups, downs, making out. Like they just were into each other.
You remember them fighting, but you also remember them hugging, and you remember them kissing.
I remember hearing them have sex. Like,
really?
Yeah, because my door touched their door for so many years.
The first time you hear that, does that scare you completely? You don't know what's going on. You think someone's getting murdered in there.
Oh, I knew about sex very, very young.
did?
My parents insisted. We were like,
How old?
I was like 4 when they
No.
talked to us
You were
about it.
4?
We were really young. My sister must have learned when she was 5 because she taught her whole kindergarten class.
About it.
Yeah. And she got sent home that day.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they wanted us to know because my mom and dad always said like a vagina is a vagina and a penis is a penis. And the earlier you know what they do, the safer you are. And it's nothing to be ashamed of that you have one or you have the other.
Do you find that to be true in life? Did it work out for you?
I mean,
do you wish you would have known later on in life?
No, I don't think so. I love my story. Like I know I had sex very young, but I love.
What's young?
I was 15, so not horribly. But
That's
I lost my virginity in the most perfect, amazing way ever. So
good person?
No.
Not a good person. So why is it an amazing way?
Because he's great.
But just not a great person.
Well, you didn't ask if he's great. You said he's a good person. Probably not.
Okay, but he was good to you?
No.
Okay, so why is he great?
Because
he was a dick to you.
No, he wasn't a dick to me.
Why is it the most amazing way?
All right, so
we'll jump around. That's fine. Tell me.
Totally. I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, which is closer to Boston, and we used to summer in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it's right before the Cape. So it's not like the Cape in the sense that people who live there all year round, except for this douchebag, aka me, who comes into summer there.
Right.
So off the bat, it's like, who is this rich bitch coming into summer where we live?
Right.
So I had to make a group of friends really quickly at a young age so that I wasn't like picked on or anything coming in. And the boy next door, we'd owned the house forever. My dad grew up with his parents, so the boy next door. He was 2 years older. He had shaggy blonde hair. He was so cute from the time that I was 4 going there. I had the biggest crush on him.
Crush on him for a long time.
And I became friends with all his friends. They made sure nobody gave me shit. They just were like everything to me. But I had the biggest crush. Obviously, when he's in high school, I'm in middle school, he looks at me as a little kid. Finally, when I enter high school, he looks at me like a more eligible bachelorette.
Right.
So
she's blossoming.
Yeah, but he was, I remember looking at his table beforehand, there was like 18 little notches on it. I was like, what's that? He was like, all the people I've had sex with. Like one of those. He is a heroin addict. And so that's been a long road of me trying to help him with that to this day.
Wow.
But I at the time I wasn't in love with him.
He was a heroin addict at the time?
I didn't know at the time, but yeah, I believe he was using probably.
Wait, so you're 15 and how old was he?
17.
17. Heroin problem at 17.
I think he probably started about the next year because he's been using for about a little over a decade. So
okay, so I'm sorry. So
no, it's okay. And he is like, it's not fair to not say he's a good guy. He has the best heart.
Bad choices.
Yeah. He's made some really, really bad choices, and he's ruined some lives, a lot of lives. Not mine, though.
Right.
Because I just summered there, and then I would leave.
Right.
And then I would come back, and I'd look at all the fallout.
Episode The Affair.
Right. But one night, I had alcohol poisoning twice, and I was out with him.
When did you start drinking? You're 15 years old. What time?
Probably about 12.
You started drinking at 12.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
And so which is because I was with my grandma in Italy, and she used to leave me alone while she would call her 40-year-old boyfriend in the room, and so I would go out wandering the streets drinking. That's how I started drinking.
All right, there's so much I have to pause. Hold on, we'll come back to that because I'm literally making where I need to go back. You're going with your grandmother at 12. I have to go here first.
Oh, okay, we're going here first.
You have to go here first. We'll get back to the 15-year-old.
My dad's mom is also kind of a rock star.
What does she do?
She has purple hair and a nose piercing. She didn't do anything in the rock and roll industry. No.
Okay.
So she lives half the year in Israel and half the year with us in Newton. Mm-hmm. And my dad built her a carriage house.
Yeah.
And whatever. So she lives on the property. So when I was bat mitzvahed, every year, every time any of the families bar bat mitzvah, she would take them on a trip of their choice. I wanted to go to Italy. So that's
just you and her.
Yeah, just us. And at this point, we had a really good relationship. I would see her, once a week because I would go over there for whatever.
Yeah. You're 12 at the bar mitzvah?
Yeah, okay. I was 12. Most people are 13, but women are allowed at 12. Okay. So I had just turned.
I know nothing about this.
I was 12. You know what a bat mitzvah is?
I know what a bar mitzvah is, but I know nothing about the tradition
itself.
So
it's you study for it, you do it's a whole big thing. It takes you years and years. So as a present, she wanted to go on a trip with us. Instead, a lot of people will end up writing you a check. Grandparents will write you a check, whatever. She was like, I want to do something with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to see you to see stuff.
So you choose Italy. You guys go to Italy
because I liked Italian food. That was as simple as my process at the time. Like, I like Italian food, and so we go to Italy, and it ruined our relationship to this day. Because,
really?
Yeah.
What?
To this day, we have issues.
Before Italy, you guys were great.
Yeah.
So what happens in Italy?
So in Italy, what I learned a lot about her. Obviously, we're living together. We went for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And your parents are cool with it?
3.5 weeks, almost a month.
Your parents are cool with 3 weeks away?
Yeah, my parents were fine with it. It was the summer.
It was summer.
It was summer.
I see.
And so it was. I wasn't going to camp that year. I went to sleepaway camp, but I guess I wasn't that year.
Okay.
And so they were fine with it. So we were there,
and they weren't very strict, your parents.
No.
Right.
No. Right. For sure not.
Okay.
And my grandma was dating, who's still her boyfriend now, but she was probably 70-something at the time, and she was dating a 40-year-old guy.
Wait, she was 70-something at the time when you went?
Yes.
So how old is she? She's still alive now?
She's 80, in her late 80s. So
I keep forgetting how young you are.
Yeah, I'm 27.
I keep forgetting how young you are. Yeah.
So she was in her early 70s, and she was dating this guy who was 40, who lived in Israel, but she didn't want him to know that I was her granddaughter because that would age her, right? Mm. And she was nervous if I was in the room when they were on the phone that I would say something. So she would talk to him for like 3 hours a night, and she would kick me out of the room.
Yeah.
And I'm 12, and I'm in Italy, and I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So we were like in this bus group, and I made friends with these 16-year-old girls. And so I lied and told them that I was 16 as well, which I'm sure they didn't believe me because I looked like a 12-year-old. And I was one of those 12-year-olds who looked like a 10-year-old. Like I did not like it was not like, ooh, this girl could pass. I was flat-chested. I was chubby. I had bangs straight up. Like it was not a 16-year-old looking kid. But I think they thought it was funny. So we would go out while my grandma would talk to him for a couple hours, and we would just get hammered.
That was the first time you drank ever in life?
Yeah, maybe I tried. My parents didn't drink. Neither of my parents drank.
Oh wow! So this is you. I mean, you matured on this trip.
Yeah,
like
for
12
sure.
years old, you're going out drinking with these 16-year-old kids in Italy.
But then also because my grandma was 70 and had already been everywhere because she traveled the whole world, she didn't want to go anywhere. So if I was like, I want to go see Pisa, she would say, "Go ahead."
What's the point?
But I couldn't go. But she wouldn't come with me. So I was just off for 3 weeks by myself, essentially.
What's the point of her taking you?
I still to this day am a little unclear about it, and at some point we'll have a conversation about it. I'm sure I was a brat to her and a bitch about it because I was a brat at that age, for sure. And like life had to hit me really hard for me to not be anymore.
Is this the grandmother that talks about your hair?
No.
Okay,
that one I have a great relationship with.
Okay.
This one still lives back east.
I see.
And yeah, demoed our relationship because I was like, she took me at that time, those 3,000 miles from home to be in this country. She will not leave the hotel room. Right. I'm not even allowed in the hotel room a lot of times. I'm in the city by myself, wandering around like
and you're lucky that nothing happened to me. Yeah, like danger wise, there's no one really watching you, and you're 12 years old. You're getting hammered. Who knows where you would have wound up?
Totally and completely.
Where did you wind up?
All over, but honestly, I was so young, and so like a couple drinks would really do me in.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kristian. I know that at one point I was with this guy who was a flame eater, like a whatever with knives and flames. And I trained with him for like 12 hours one day.
Right.
I don't know, like on how to put flame down my mouth. That was like one of my days.
It's like a strange Netflix series.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah.
And it was, in the end, I'm so grateful for the trip because I got to see something that most people don't ever get to see in their lifetime.
Sure.
And it was so wonderful. And I did have a blast. But like when I came home, I was straight up I was withdrawn because I came home and I was like, I was drinking for 3.5 weeks straight. And
Right.
so I was like,
And so you're 12 years old now, drinking
I was
like
probably
a
13 when I got home, yeah.
drinking like a 20-year-old. And yeah, you said it ruins your relationship. That's resentment for sure.
I definitely resented her for a really long time.
I can understand why.
And I don't now, but it still is strange. It's still, and actually, she's one of my only relatives that does listen to some of our shows.
Yeah.
Like, she loves me and does try to support me in every way she can. She just is, she's been alone for a very long time. She is set in her own ways. And if she didn't want to do something, same as my dad, she's not doing it.
See, I can understand that, but if it didn't come down to hey, I'm buying you this trip because of your bar mitzvah so I could go with you and hang out with you, but I'm not going to.
But I'm not going.
You go and become a woman at 12. I don't love it.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
And
And that's
so-
all I can say about
yeah.
that. But sometimes life hands you things, and that's that.
Right. Okay, so that's a lot of context. So then now we flash back. Now we fast forward to 15-year-old you. You got this kid who's about to go into this horrible journey in his life.
Yes.
But you are drinking already.
So the point was that I had alcohol poisoning twice by this point.
Got
So
it.
my parents gave me a curfew because they thought that,
You're going to wind up dead in an alley.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they loved me more than anything. They were not capable of being strict. It was not, they didn't have a bone in their body that could do that.
They probably felt like hypocrites.
Yeah. And so they just were like, she's going to do what she's going to do. We're going to try to keep her as safe as we can. We're going to give her a 1 a.m. curfew. Okay. So at 15, I had a 1.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
At 15, I had a 1 a.m. curfew, and they know I'm out with these people who are drinking and partying, and they're okay with me doing that. They don't want me to get in the car with drunk people, but for the most part, they're okay with it. So I have to call them by 11 to say
let them know
I'm
you're
alive
okay, yeah.
and be home by 1. So I'm out with the guy and his friends, and we're drinking, and we're on our way home. And I don't know if you were the same way. I'm 100% guessing that you weren't, but a lot of women are like this, and maybe people. I knew I was going to lose my virginity that night.
Oh.
Like, I had planned for it, prepped for
You
it.
knew it was gonna happen that night with this guy.
happen. He doesn't know.
Right.
But I knew
Right.
because I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm doing this. I had just turned 15. I'd been waiting for my 15th birthday because I didn't want to lose my virginity at 14.
This is way after the basement story.
Yeah, way after the
Okay.
basement story. And so I knew. And so I was like, okay, it's probably going to take like, I don't know, a couple minutes. So I called my parents at 11, said, I'll be home even before 1. I'll see you guys before then.
Okay.
I partied a little longer, then probably at midnight, the guy and I go back to his place.
And he lives next door, right?
And he lives next door to
Okay.
me. So I'm like, all right.
You're right
So
there.
I'm going to be right there. So we go back to his place, and like any good 15-year-old at the time, I was like, oh, it would be so awkward if my phone rang during sex. So I have to turn it off. Like, it would just be too awkward. I don't know.
Right.
So I turned it off.
Why not vibrate?
I don't know.
Okay.
No idea. Just I thought that
Turn it off.
that I'd be embarrassed,
Right.
which probably is a sign that you're not ready to have sex if something going off would.
If it's that plan,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So we're listening to music. We're hanging out. I still don't know if he knows. He has a waterbed, by the way, which comes into play. Then, like, I don't know, we had a couple more beers. I just lost track of time.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I lost track of time. We started hooking up. We started having sex. His cat came in the room. It comes under the bed, under my back.
Right.
I lean back on the cat. The cat scratches at the bed. The waterbed pops. The water starts going everywhere.
Get out of here.
I'm not effing with you. Water starts. I'm covered. And waterbeds take a long time to pop, but the cat's like in there scratching, drowning in the water.
Okay.
The water starts going out the door. His mom comes running in,
And you're buck naked.
soaking wet,
Right.
buck naked. She comes running in. I'm trying to hold the patches of water.
Only you this could happen
I
to, by the
know.
way.
It's like an absolute disaster. I've known her since I was 2. She's like trying to help me. I'm like, no, it's so my phone being embarrassing. This is the most embarrassing
Ever.
It just was an absolute nightmare. And
It sounds like a Fairly Brothers movie.
finally, after like cleaning up and all this stuff, I mean, but it was amazing.
Yeah,
because
it's a great story.
Right. So
The cat
after-
okay?
Yeah, the cat lived.
Okay.
And then after all of this, I'm like, okay. I'm like toweling off my hair. And then I turn my phone on, and it's 4 a.m. And I'm like, and I have like as many voicemails as at the time you could have.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh my God. So I grab my clothes. I run home, the one house to home over.
Right.
I'm soaking wet. And there's a cop at my door.
Right.
And I knock the door, and my parents get the door, and there's the cop there. And I was like, and they're like, is this your daughter? I'm like, yeah. Cop leaves. I think it was just my mom actually who was down there. I think my dad stayed upstairs because he was so annoyed. Because he was always like, she's fine.
Right.
She's fine. She's just a bitch. Like, it's fine. Just let her. And so my mom was so nervous, and she looks and said, why are you soaking wet? Cop leaves. And I said, because I swam home.
So you didn't have that kind of relationship where you would tell your mom, who are you more close with, your mom or your dad?
I was really close. I was very close with both, but I was a really bitchy kid.
Okay.
And bitchy kids hate their moms.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what happens at teenage bitchy kids. Like my dad, I felt like he saw me, he understood me more.
Right.
My mom was always breathing down my neck or whatever it was, but really she was just slightly stricter.
Right.
Which was still very not strict, and I thought I was a little adult.
Right.
I thought that I was a total adult, and so no, I said to her, I swam home, which obviously makes no effing sense. Because what the hell am I talking
where are you
about?
swimming
And
from,
she was like, I mean, it was on the ocean, but where are you coming from? Right. And so I just was like, she was like, go to bed. And it was rough. But anyway, he ended up being a nice person to me, not really nice to other people. Right. Definitely like has his fair share.
Is that the only time? Is that the only time with that guy?
No. We ended up sleeping together for years.
For years?
Every summer I would go back.
That was it?
Yeah.
But you really,
unbelievable in bed.
Really?
Unbelievable.
So, I guess so. If it was that many times and that many years, but it's
unbelievable.
But when you have that first experience, to where obviously you guys don't finish because the cat's gonna die.
But that's what girl finishes on their first experience?
Right. But that's what I mean. Do you go? So then, because that first experience happens, now you're going through high school, or not high school? Yeah, high school. You're going through high school.
Yeah, high school.
And is this guy the continued? Like, I'm going to go back to this guy because I don't trust anybody else yet.
No, not at all.
Right.
I was very much so at the time. I loved this guy at my high school. Like I always just viewed him as the boy next door with like the shaggy hair, and he was just a sweet kid that it was never gonna.
He was a warm up.
Yeah. But he did not view me that way.
Okay. He liked you a lot.
Yeah, I think he thought that I was like
the one.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe, because here I am. I come in for the summer. I like help his life. I change things. I get him clean.
Gets you away from the normal, the hustle and bustle.
And then I leave.
Yeah.
And every time I leave, it went to crap. And then I come back and I fix it all and I do everything.
Right.
And like So
have you always? I feel like you've always been a fixer.
For sure.
Yeah, and does that come from the family life too?
I think so. I mean, my dad's the same way. Growing up, we had people ending up on my doorstep, and he'd fix it.
He'd be the fixer. Yeah. So
he'd fix it.
What's going on with your brother and your sister at the time when you're doing all this stuff at 15?
They hated me.
They hated you.
Yeah, they hated me.
Were they the good kids and you were kind of the problem child?
I got
wild child.
I graduated with a 4.1 GPA,
wow.
It was very challenging for my parents to not. They couldn't say you need to get it together because you're not doing well.
Because you weren't fucking up in school.
I crushed it.
Yeah.
And my brother had like maybe a 2 point something. Like he was not doing well in school. We'd never touched alcohol all day, but he was not doing well in school, and he would sit and play video games all day. Mm-hmm. So he like really resented that I was hooking up with people because he told everybody I was a lesbian, and he tried to like combat.
Why? Why? Because he was trying to protect you?
No, he didn't want me hooking up with any more guys.
Well, because he was trying to protect you.
No, because he was embarrassed.
Oh.
He was embarrassed.
Right.
Right. Like.
Were you pretty promiscuous in high school?
No, definitely not. Well, that's not true for a high schooler, for sure. But I've slept with a very small amount of people comparatively, just because I don't like having sex with people I don't know, because I've tried it and I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
So like.
Not a one night stand.
Right. Yeah. Just I did try one time to have a one night stand, and it turned into like a almost stalkery situation. So they're just not. They don't do it for me. Like. Right. Physically.
Well, it's also I think it's very different with not with all, but with a lot of times with men and women, is I think that the connection and trying to find more of what's there inside of the conversation and who the person is, and where guys sometimes just feel about the physicality and that's it, about the door.
100%. I get that. And I definitely like made out with my fair share of people, or as my Grammy calls it, did a little heavy petting. But
right.
I was not sleeping around with tons of people. But I did make out with one of his friends, which he was pissed about. And, you know, like his friends would come over and like sneak up to hang in my room or whatever. And he didn't like that. That kind of stuff. And just
normal
in general.
sibling shit.
Yeah. He hated me, and my little sister, who was 9 the first time I got alcohol poisoning and watched me, like, it was just, I was not a good role model. I was not a good sibling. I was not a great person. I have a lot of regrets from that time.
What were you rebelling against? What was it?
You know, I had a lot of stuff happen to me when I was younger that I just was not capable of coming to grips with.
Like what?
And I guess I don't fully even know the extent of things, but you know, like personal things that had happened to me.
The abuse stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
family stuff?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just from outside.
Yeah, and I was pissed.
Okay.
And sad all the time.
Well, that'll do it. I mean, look, man. How old were you?
14.
You're 14 when it happened. It was someone that friends of family or something along those lines.
Kind of.
Yeah. So just acquaintances.
Yeah. You know, I think that it takes you a long time to realize as a person, like, why you are the way you are. And I fully believe that people can black things out and shut things out until they're physically capable of, like, whatever. But, I was just, for a really, really long time in my life, I was really pissed and really mean to a lot of people. And it was because I was dealing with a lot.
Sure, and that's usually,
which is not an excuse to be mean to anybody.
It is it's tricky. It's tricky because you don't know what people are going through. You don't know the extent. You don't have to get into the actuality of what happened, but it's abuse in general. When that happens, it shapes people in very different ways. And you, again, where you had a very loving mom and dad and siblings, but this particular thing happened to you. Your kid,
right?
You don't know how to deal with it. This is also coming off 2 years later after you've lived it up in Italy drinking by yourself. You already think you're super mature.
Oh, I thought I was 35 years old.
Right.
And then you realize you're not, and there's a reason why you need certain people in your life, like a mom and a dad.
That turns you right back into, I can imagine, that moment of that traumatic thing that happened to you. Like you said, it comes crashing over you that you are a child. And that, like you said, like, where's my protection? I don't have that at the moment. And you feel betrayed, but you don't even know by
Pissed
who.
at everyone.
Right.
Pissed at everyone and not that anybody can do anything. So, yeah, I was really horrible to all these people. It's like going back to talking about my mom, who was I closer with.
Did they know about it?
Not for many, many years.
Okay, you didn't tell anybody about it for a while.
Yeah, for many, many years.
Wow.
And then when I did, everything started to change.
Because they understood?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think so. You never really know why. Like, I'm not somebody who talks about things that I talk about. Some things I've been through. Like, a lot of people know that my mom passed away.
Right.
And if you didn't know that from this conversation, that's why I keep referring to her in that tense.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, but
and so, you know, I talk about a lot of things that happened, but I think that there's times where you feel urged to do something, and I just haven't been ready yet to talk about this, you know? And I'm still not, and that's okay. And one day I think I probably will be.
Right.
But until then, it was like a few years later, I talked to my parents about it, and they were shocked.
Right. Because they knew the person.
It wasn't because of that. It was because of the timeline of things. It all added up for them.
So
like,
why
they were shocked because of how non-shocking it was. They were shocked that they hadn't seen what had happened.
And the rebellious nature kind of came into play, like a light bulb, almost like, oh, that's why. That's why all that happened.
I'm not a parent, but you are, and
right.
I think you can only imagine, like, if something happened and you were just so unaware, that would be you question yourself.
Yeah.
And so it just changed our dynamic a lot as a family. And at that point, because I was willing to say something, I was treated more as an adult because I think they viewed me that way.
And you were, what, 17 or so when you told them?
Yeah. I was. And I think that, that's when things started to change and when I stopped being such a piece of shit. Because I don't
think it's fair to call yourself that.
Well,
I don't think it's fair.
It's not fair because it is fair, Christian, because no matter what your circumstances are, you don't have to treat your loved ones like crap. And I really did. And I really.
You were a hurt, confused child that was betrayed. You like you said before about your friend with the heroin. He made poor choices. Does that mean he's a piece of shit? I don't know what else he did in his life. To me, that's. Right. I know you, and even maybe I didn't know you back then. The core of who you are is not a piece of shit. You probably made horrible choices. If I would have known you, I'd probably say she's a dick.
Yeah, she's a dick.
She's a dick.
Exactly.
But I think there's a difference between piece of shit
and dick.
There's
you're right. So I was a dick.
Yeah,
and,
you're a dick.
And my biggest regret in life, and I always talk about this, is my 2 siblings are my best friends now. My brother and my sister are my 2 best friends.
And that patched up also when they found out?
Well, partially, but what I was going to say was that my mom never got to see that because she passed before I was fully who I am now.
And you guys were still at ends by the time when she passed?
Yeah. My brother and I were barely speaking because of another situation that had happened between the 2 of us. But my sister, she still was traumatized by what I had put her through. Yeah. It just was, I can't believe she did not get to see what was going to happen. But I've talked to some of her closest friends about it, and they all say she knew that it would be okay.
Eventually,
which I have to believe, because otherwise how do you wake up in the morning?
Right.
You know?
Well, let me say, so spiritually, we've had a couple conversations on Collider Live, what your spiritual kind of beliefs are too. But do you think your mom knows?
I don't know. She definitely believed that she would know, which I liked because I think that really helped her with her journey. My dad's a hardcore atheist. He grew up Orthodox Jew and really raged against the machine there. So I kind of grew up with both sides. I've never believed in God or anything.
Yeah.
But I believe something.
So you're more agnostic.
Yeah, I believe something. I don't know if she knows, but I know. And she's in me somehow.
Right.
So
So so there's that feeling for sure. Like when you go, for those who don't know, how long ago did your mom pass?
My mom passed. It's going to be 8 years this August.
Okay.
So 7.5 years ago, and that means that I had just turned 20.
I was just going to say, you're 20 years old, and so...
I just turned
20. So when she passed.
Yeah, and so she stopped being able to speak or communicate months before that.
What happened exactly for people who don't know?
So when I was 16, my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer. Right. She had a stage 4 glio, and that is like to anybody who's listening who has one or know somebody with one, they've made such advancements since then. So don't take this now what it was, but at the time, that just was what it was.
Right.
Like, there was no...
It was say your goodbyes.
Yeah. And they gave her 6 months. She lived 3.5 years, which was really amazing. She was quite the fighter. She's from New Jersey, so most Jersey kids are.
Yep.
And
Tom Dagnino, Mike Citizen. Those are 2 guys I always think of Jersey. They're big fighters.
Huge fighter. And she had actually gone through a lot similar to me, but a lot worse in her life than I had. And she was just scrappy and a fighter. And she was really sick for a really long time. And a lot of people did not know at first. We kept it in the family for quite a bit. And it didn't come out for years, for a year maybe. And then once it came out, it did. And there's a quick deterioration in that.
How's your dad? Your dad and your mom were like super-in-law? How does he handle it? How does it change him?
They were together they were married for probably 22 years at that point. And gosh, I mean, my dad will never be the same.
Yeah. Definitely.
How could you be? But he's dated his fair share of 18 to 27-year-olds since then.
But both faithful during the marriage.
100%.
Yeah. So they're just love of their lives.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine. So it's like a devastating thing there too. But I'm thinking of the kids also, because again, as a dad, the first thing I think of.
My sister was 14.
sister's 14, your brother's 18, he's right 2 years older than you?
Yeah.
So you're 16 years old, and you're already going.
Oh, my sister was 11 when my mom was diagnosed.
11, so
And she's 5 years
11,
younger.
13, and 15. That's the ages of the kids at the time?
When she was diagnosed, I was 16, Sky was 11, and Jet was 18.
I see.
And he was in college in Oregon.
Okay. So you're already going through some shit at 16 years old.
Yep.
Or 15, and then so when your parents tell you, I mean, is that just your whole world's got to go upside down?
What actually happened was it was kind of wild. So my mom was a absolute hypochondriac, and we grew up with her driving herself to the emergency room all the time.
Okay.
All of the time, because she kept always saying, "There's something wrong. There's something wrong." So my dad, my sister, and I were at basketball practice because I was coaching younger kids, and my dad was coaching my sister's team, and we split a court. And my dad got a call during basketball practice, and he turned to Sky and I and said, "I got to go to Newton Wellesley. You guys meet me there afterwards." And so at this time, I couldn't even drive, so we had somebody drop us off there. My sister went home. I went to Newton Wellesley, and they saw that she had a brain tumor, but they were like, "It's definitely non-cancerous. Don't worry.
Oh, wow.
It will be fine." But she was like, "I knew something was wrong. I knew it.
Right.
It'd been growing for 20 years, and then sure enough, it wasn't. It was cancerous, and it was not fine."
And so I mean, and it just that's your whole world.
My whole world, yeah. And talk about at that time, I was my most bitter, my most angry already.
That's what I mean.
And I had already dropped, so I had dropped out of high school. I was
even with your grades the way they were.
So at 16, I decided I was having before quarter life crisis, a 10th life crisis.
Yeah.
And
you say, I don't need it. I don't need school.
Well, I said, I have to start working at Children's Hospital. This was prior to my mom being diagnosed. And my parents I went to them and I said that, and they said, "What?" And I said, "School's stupid. There's kids that need help. I can help them. I can't do this anymore. Why am I learning about math?" I had already placed out of math. I had already I had already taken enough courses at that point that I would be able.
Right.
And I was like, I have to do something with my life. I'm going insane. And they looked at me and they said, "Okay, okay." And so they were like, "Take enough classes that you could graduate if you still want to." So I went early in the morning. And these teachers, public school, by the way, worked around my schedule. So I went in and I took 2 classes by 8 a.m. and then I went to the hospital and worked there until 5 or whatever. So at the time I was already figuring myself out, and I was.
You did drop out.
That's what I did. I took those 2.
And so you did it
for all of my whole junior year. And so that was then in December. I was already doing that. My mom was then diagnosed.
Right.
So I'm already the weird kid people are looking at, what?
Right.
What's this girl's deal? She has great grades. She was one of the cooler kids, and now she's leaving.
You weren't bullied or anything?
No, when I was a kid, yeah, but not in high school. No, I was cute enough, and I had friends, and I partied, and there was nothing. I played sports.
So you did, socially, it was fine. Grades were fine. You were just battling with a lot of shit.
Yeah, and at this point, my parents still had no idea what was going on with me, and they were just trying to figure out how can we make this girl not so miserable. I was having horrible panic attacks all day, screaming traumas, and they would be like, what can we do? And so that was my solution.
You were just screaming for help, basically. What you were doing.
Desperately.
And then you do. So you work in the hospital.
My mom got
diagnosed,
and I doubled down on being a dick.
I was just going to ask you. I was going to say, did that change you into the better?
No, so I doubled down.
To the other side?
I doubled down so hard.
How so?
I was just, drinking in the mornings.
Wow.
I was dating an actual dick at the time who, I swear to God, this is a different story, but this week texted me. It's been over a decade.
Okay.
This week texted me, "I just want you to know that your mom was so amazing to me. And I've told you that before, but not only that, you were amazing to me. And I'm so sorry that I didn't know at the time and that I was such a dick to you. I'm so sorry. You are the best." We haven't spoken in a decade.
But when that text comes in, does that mean something to you, or do you say too late?
What? Oh, not to get back together.
No. I don't mean that.
It meant everything to me because I'm currently going through my love life is DOA, and just shows me that what you know at the time is right. My gut has never been wrong. And I know that just made me, at that time, I was like, why can't he see? I was a kid, but I was like, what? I'm amazing. Why doesn't he? And
so when you say he was a dick, like what was he doing?
He was cheating on me with my best friends.
In high school?
In high school. Okay. And like, you know, he was smoking cigarettes. My mom had quit. And so then he started getting her to smoke again.
Your mom?
Yeah. Okay. And so she started smoking again, which was like, he just was a bad influence. Right. He had a really bad family life, so he was living with me. He was staying over, and just like he was at the time, he was pushing oxys, so he was feeding me oxys. Okay. I didn't even know what they were, so like he was bad. Yeah, bad to the bone. Bad influence. Getting robbed.
And how long did you date?
Shoving people in lockers.
He was robbing people?
No, getting robbed because he was like dealing in wheel.
Oh,
like,
I see.
And I'm sure robbing people too. He was doing it all.
He wasn't a good guy.
No, definitely not then. Now I'm sure he's fine.
But whatever.
But back then, no, it was not good. It was really bad. But he was a year older, so then the next year he left. We stayed kind of hooking up sometimes for years.
Right.
I kind of hooked up with 3 different people for 7 years.
Right.
Like just recycled.
Right.
And that was it.
You always needed to be with somebody, but it was okay if it was somebody one of the 3.
Yep, totally.
I see what you're saying.
Totally. So, although one of them was an amazing human being.
Okay.
But neither of the first 2.
Neither of the first 2. But you kind of gravitate towards not.
Yeah. So I remember, though, I was in my senior year, and I was the biggest dick that I had been, and my mom and I got into a screaming match at 1 a.m. in the dead of winter in the snow. As after her biopsy, she couldn't walk the same, so she was limping, following me, and I was screaming in the street, "I fucking hate you!" You're just screaming at her. The cops were called on us, and I think I was drunk, and she was not in her right mind. She had a brain tumor. She had hit me a couple of times, and we were
close fist.
Like slapped. One time she punched me. Yeah, but she was not okay. She had a massive
100%.
You know. But I resented her a lot for things, and
you didn't get it.
I didn't get it, and so we finally, after the police left or whatever, I went to sleep that night, and I woke up the next morning. My dad said, "Get up," and I said, "What are we doing?" And he said, "We're going to feed the ducks," which is something we did when I was a little kid. And I'll never, ever forget, he took me to feed the ducks, and he looked at me. We were quiet the whole ride there. It was like 25 minutes away. We get there. We get out. We're feeding them, saying nothing. We're about to leave, and he looks at me and says, "If you don't change, you're never going to forgive yourself. And you don't have time.
Right.
So you have to change, because you'll never be able to live with yourself."
But that got you, because your dad was, he was.
And instead of being a dick for once and being like, "You don't know," I just I heard it.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I think it was the first time I realized we were going to actually lose her. Because I always
that makes so much sense, because you were in such denial.
100%. And I was like, I don't know when, but we're gonna lose her.
Right.
And so, yeah, everything changed for me after that. It was that one conversation, and
with the ducks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I asked him last year, "Dad, do you remember?" Because all of a sudden I realized he probably has no idea. Right. And for all the weird parenting moves he's done, that was like on.
That was the one.
That was the one.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if he even knows. He said, "I don't remember that."
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Because what's so great about that, though, is that to him it's just like instinct. He'll just let you know it's just a normal day. Like, hey, get your shit together.
Yeah,
this is
but to me it changed my whole life.
Right.
My whole life, and not just with my mom. I just was like, I hate who I am.
And you turned it around.
And if I don't change, I'm gonna hate myself forever. Yeah, and I turned it around, and I started dating this great guy.
Okay, one of the 3.
Yeah, the third one of the 3.
Third good one. Okay.
Who changed my life, and he was so amazing. And to this day, I actually just saw him for Thanksgiving, and he's the best. Yeah. I love him. He changed my whole world. Not in that kind of way.
How long did you date him?
We were together, on and off for like the 7 years. He came and visited me, and then college, and then afterwards. But he lived in New York, and finally we called it quits, and we were like, neither of us
just
are ever moving.
Yeah.
We can't do this long distance. Neither of us are going to move.
Right. But it was amicable.
Yeah, and he's still a good friend of mine, and he wasn't the right person for me in the end, but
He was the right person for you as a friend.
I needed him.
Yes.
And he really did. Like, he changed my life. I started seeing a therapist who also changed my life, and
At the same time, after the duck conversation.
I would not be here without her. She was everything to me, and I just was like, I doubled down on schoolwork. I was like, I've got to graduate, so I started taking extra classes because I had missed my junior year.
But you went back to senior.
Went back.
Right.
I started auditioning for schools. That's how I got into USC, because I auditioned in their program, but I was flying all over the country. My mom couldn't go with me, so I was just by myself, like, doing it and just kind of being an adult, but actually this time not like 12-year-old trying to be. I was like, okay.
But seems like you kicked into the Roxy I know today, because what people may or may not have heard me talk about this, you were one of the most prepared people that I've ever met in my life. Like when the first time I ever had you on Schmoes, you wanted to know what the show was about. You did all the research. When we want to put you on the DC movie news show, you did all the research, you learned, and that seems like this person that flew to USC.
Yeah, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
It started then.
Right.
It started then. But I couldn't repair what I had done with my sister because she hated me so much. I couldn't repair with my brother yet.
They wouldn't take your phone calls and stuff too? They didn't want to deal with it?
They just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They didn't want to deal with it. Like, they didn't hate me anymore. They just didn't want to deal with my crap.
Right.
Like, they didn't believe that I had changed yet, which why would they?
Right.
And they didn't want to deal with it, which I totally get. My sister was an actual child, and my brother was just like, leave me alone. You're annoying and the worst.
Right.
But I was able to repair my relationship with my mom, which was
that's what I was going to ask you. So at that point, because you have the conversation with your dad, it turns it all around. You're going to the USC. Now, at what point what's the conversation like with your mom when you say, look, I know more or less I've been a dick?
There was no conversation.
No conversation.
There was no conversation.
Just feeling?
She loved me so much, and she was just so happy that I just was not being a dick anymore. But, I still had my moments, and like I'll also never forget, like, I don't know if she was totally there. I know she wasn't totally there for this, but who knows how much she knows. Like 3 days before she died, I went to UMass to party with the older kids, and went and stayed there. I was supposed to come home, didn't come home. Like, just was still fighting being the old me. But
was that also you trying to get away from it?
Yeah, I think so. And I remember I was at SC at this time. So, but when she passed, I was at SC. I was flying home almost every weekend. I was considered a commuter student.
Jeez.
Because she looked at me and she was like, you drop out, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And so I stayed, but it was getting really bad with her. So I just flew back and forth and back
every
and forth.
Weekend.
It was 3 times a month.
It's a lot, yeah.
It was a lot.
It's a long flight.
Yeah. It's, it's a 6-hour flight. So, but she told me I couldn't drop out, and I didn't want to, and I wanted to be with her, and I just did it as much as I could. So,
all right. So then as it gets closer to, when your mom passes, are you guys expecting that it was coming? It was, like you said, it just happens fast.
So she lost her ability to speak, and then it's like that, So until then, she was pretty good at faking it. Like, she had all these things. Like, she'd be like, "Oh, that's my favorite song," and it's like, "No, it's not." Or, "That's my favorite color." No, it's not. She like lost who she was. But then when she lost her ability to speak, and then move, we would carry her everywhere we were going, outside, indoor, whatever. Like, it physically very, very demanding and exhausting. And it happened really fast. And then I remember the last time she ever spoke, it was my birthday, which is July 13th. And
that was the last time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because all day, I don't know why it was so important to my sister and I, but all day we were like, we're going to get her to say, happy birthday, I love you. Just like we needed to. Yeah. I don't know. And so
makes sense.
But like a little, like a kid who's learning to speak would be like, can you, whatever. And finally, after like 12 hours of us being there, she looked up and she said, happy birthday, I love you. And she never spoke again.
I'll tell you though, same thing I told John Roca when he shared his experience with his dad. That right there, that moment, like, you always have that.
I'll always have that.
You will always have that. That is such a, when you can talk about all those memories to where you said, like, I felt like I was being a dick, but it's because you turned that moment around. And because you have that now.
I know. And you could tell how hard she was fighting to do it, because she knew we wanted something, but she couldn't figure it out. And then finally at the end when she did, Yeah, and then it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks almost later that she passed.
But I'll tell you, though, the thing is that, I mean, again, what do I know just from hearing the stories? What you said to me that is a key element is that it was you and your sister all day, right?
Yeah.
And your mom saw that. Your mom saw that it was you and your sister together.
She did. I don't know. At that point, my sister and I were on the mend. We were not good. Like now, I talk to her 14,000 times a day. Like,
but what I mean is, it's the memory. Your mom, though,
she saw that we were okay.
Saw it. She saw you guys together and trying to work together. So I mean, so. But now,
for sure.
Now you have these moments that like you said, there were a couple moments that between the diagnosis and because of the thing that happened to you, and also with your grandmother, that these 3 moments turned you more into a dick. But after your mom passes, and you're already in this mode of where you're on the mend of becoming a different person, does the anger seep back in, or do you keep going forward?
Both. It wasn't anger anymore. I was just not a full human being anymore. Like, this is when I've talked about it on Collider a few times. Like, I've just blacked out a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I was really, really depressed. I was in school still. I had to finish. I was working full time too. And 3 days after my mom passed, I was back in LA for class. So Do
people know?
I told pretty much no one. My roommates knew.
Right.
Not even all of my roommates knew. And they had known she'd been sick. I don't think anybody else realized my mom was going to die because I had been so
not as open with
low key about, everybody. I don't mean this to sound insulting at all, but everybody's got a parent with cancer, and 90% of them make it. So it's like when you hear that somebody's parent has cancer, it's not the same thing that it used to be 40 years ago, where it's like, when you hear somebody's parent has breast cancer, you think, oh my God, that's horrible. What you're going through is horrible. But you're never thinking they're going to die, So when I said my parent has cancer, people weren't thinking she's going to die. They were just...
I think so, though. I mean, I think sometimes with cancer, it's like, every time I hear that, I just want to know right away, like, what kind? Is it terminal? Like, what's happening?
As an adult, yes. But I'm saying as a 16-year-old, everybody had an uncle And again, I'm so sorry if I offended anybody. I don't mean it like that at all. All cancer is horrible, and I'm the first person to say fuck cancer.
I know what you're when you're a kid, you're a little more naive to it because you still have that immortality.
It's so different. Like brain cancer is the worst of the worst,
right?
And people think of cancer as cancer. You don't think of it as, you think of this thing that I thought of it at the time, at least, as because I had lived through 7 people surviving cancer. Right. So it's like this thing that people fight, and it's miserable, and it changes them, and it's horrible, but they make it.
Right, right. I know what you're saying now. Yeah, for sure. And I think but at the time, though, the guys in New York, the one that you really like, or the one who was the good guy.
Yeah.
Are you confiding in him?
So he lived when you mean after she passed?
After she passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he knew her.
Right, that's what I meant.
So well, and she loved him. Yeah. It was really, really hard for me to ever be with anybody again that never met her, because it feels like, how could you ever know me if you didn't know her?
Right.
But you have to try. But yeah, I leaned on him a lot, and he was a rock.
So there's so much in there already within this time that we talked that I've learned about shaping who I'm looking at here today. And there's more. I mean, there's more to it because where I first met you, I met you through Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos. Mm-hmm. Now, you know this story obviously better than I do because it happened to you. But the from what I always knew is that you were on a plane and you were sitting next to Kevin, and you guys started talking, and then the next thing you know, you're working at Afterbuzz.
So I had $7 in my bank account.
Yeah.
At the time.
Where were you? You graduated college at this point?
No.
No.
I was still in college.
Okay.
At early college, I was a freshman.
Okay.
So mom's still around.
Oh, your mom's still around.
My mom was still around. Still early college, and I was like a broke college kid, and I was hungry, and I went and I fought my way to first class because I was hungry, and I knew $7 wouldn't get me food on the airplane, and first class got free food. And so I just went and badgered the shit out of the people at the counter. And I was like, listen, I see the seat is open. Finally, they were like, just do it. Just fine. Just shut up about it and do it. So I sit next to Kevin.
Wow.
And so I that's the only time I was in first class. Like,
Right.
and that was that. So I turned to him. He has a whole camera crew walking by him. I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? I'm out here to be an actress. We talk. He ends up auditioning me for Afterbuzz as their first host.
But don't bury the lead there, because that's a long. It's because you're going from where to Boston.
Yeah, Boston, LA, 6 hours.
It's a 6 hour flight. So
We
it's
watched,
not just like a
we
hello
watched
conversation.
a couple hours of Family Guy together.
Okay.
And
You start talking with him. You bring up.
I said, who was that? Like the crew that walked by. He talked to me about how he was filming his movie Adventures of Serial Buddies at the time. And then he just started talking to me about his partner, Maria Menounos, who I had no idea who that was.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Which is shocking because every person and their mother in Boston knows who that is.
Right.
But I was not that girl. I didn't grow up. No, I didn't.
No, it doesn't seem like it at all. Yeah, you weren't. You kind of fell into this business.
Yeah, I knew rock and roll,
Right.
and like I knew my favorite performances, and I had seen so many movies and TV shows. But like the entertainment side of it all, I didn't know Extra Access E. Like I didn't read People or any of those. That just wasn't me growing up. And so yeah, he starts talking to me, and he was like, I know you're out here to be an actress, but we're possibly starting this company. Maybe you should come by. And I was like, we were talking about, I wanted to audition for The Real World.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll help you with your audition video. And so I was like, yeah, okay, then I'll come by.
Now, when you hear it too, because I mean, I know Kevin, he's 100% legit, but you're talking to this guy on a plane. Do you think that this could be bullshit at all?
Oh, of course. I can't Google anything because I'm on the plane, and he's named a name I didn't know.
Right.
So I was like, who is this? Whatever, but he'll help me with my Real World audition, so fine.
Right. So you believe it, obviously. Then you do Google him. Are you on the way? I'm sorry. Were you
I'm
on the way to
from Boston to LA?
Okay. So then you get back to school. You do the Google search. You realize, okay, he's definitely legit.
Yeah.
And then you go into the audition.
And the second I saw her face, I knew who she was, and I felt like an idiot too.
Right.
But I
probably helped that you didn't know. To be honest.
I did that, and then I didn't have a car out here at the time, so my grandparents came and picked me up at USC and drove me to what is the old Afterbuzz, but at the time it was not that. It was just a little house.
Love that
and it
house.
was so bizarre that my grandparents were like, we're walking you inside.
Right.
Like, you're going to be sold into sex slavery or something. And I was like, and it's in the Valley, and they're like, you know what happens in the Valley. So I don't know, but they walked me in, and I'm with a suitcase of clothes for my Real World audition. And they walked me in, they met Kevin, and they were like, yeah, okay, he seems legit, fine. They left. He sat with me for like 3 hours while we filmed my Real World audition. After I filmed it, I got called in, so I was like, oh, he must have done a good job. And so then when we went back east again, we were both back there for the holidays, at Emerson, he was like, we're going to do our first episode of Jersey Shore. Do you want to come?
After show.
After show. But it was at Emerson at the whatever. And he was like, do you want to pop by and do it with us? And I was back home, and I was like, go get drunk with my friends, go do this. All right, I guess I'll show up. So I did.
Different Roxy already.
Totally.
Yeah.
I did. And then everything just like from there.
Isn't that crazy though? How like you can just like, because there are a lot of people that don't do that shift. We'll call it the duck shift.
I don't think I ever would have shifted if I wasn't forced to shift.
That's what I mean. Well, it's tricky though, because it's also a different mental. There's some people that just doesn't matter. Even if you're forced to shift, some people just don't shift.
You go one way or the other.
Right.
I have a tattoo on my shoulder that says "Better Not Bitter" because that was like our family mantra. And it's from a letter my mom wrote me in her handwriting. But my dad always used to say, just like, there's nothing worse than becoming bitter from the events that are happening in your life that you can't control. You have to let them make you better, and at some point that finally sunk in.
Right, and it seemed to be that
ducks.
for sure, because you still got that feistiness. I think that's what makes you you.
I'm definitely feisty still, but not to be a dick, but I'm a really good person.
Yeah.
Like, I look out for my friends and family like no other. I feel like a lot of it is making up for lost time, and whether I think she knows or not, it's all about doing it for my mom. Every single thing I do. I don't know if you feel that same way since your brother has passed, but like, you just want to make them proud. You want to be successful. You want to be a good person. You want to do the things you told them that you would do that they always thought you would.
Right.
And it's just all I think about.
Right.
All day.
Well, and that's there. You get so this audition comes in. You don't get it, but who gives a shit? Because you got the actual audition itself.
I had to go to Bakersfield Hooters.
Amazing.
for my callback.
Yeah, you don't need that show anyway. So but it's what's really the big thing is you're getting involved with Kevin and Afterbuzz here. So and then when you're doing that, you do the after show here for Jersey Shore, and then but it's so much more than that because when you come back, when I met you, you were like one of the people that were running the place. It was Phil and Steven and then you. And
so did you mean when I was done with college or I was still in school? I met
you probably in 2014.
So we're after college. Yeah. So I was doing after shows there all through college and still studying acting and film at SC. And then when I graduated, they brought me on as a producer, which, gosh, I don't know what they were seeing in me as that at the time, but thank goodness that I figured it out. And so I just started learning everything. I learned Final Cut and I learned how to, on movies and framing and whatever it was.
But are you clashing with anybody there? Are you actually able to?
No, I clashed with everybody. I clashed with everybody because, for better or worse, I love them to pieces, but a lot of the staff at Afterbuzz is a bunch of nerds, and I'm nerdy in a different way. But like they're like tech people, and I was this like partying
rock star's kid.
Yeah, they just did. I didn't get them. They didn't get me, and I loved them. But I was just like, they would talk about things, and I'd be like, what? That's human. I felt like I always had to be like, for dummies, please. Like, what the did you just say? So I clashed with everyone. Right. I clashed with literally everyone there.
But they're like family to you.
And now after a decade, I was clashing with everybody.
Well, and it's funny you say that because you talk about like what we always talked about with the Schmoes crew is that when we came in there, so for those people who don't know, basically what happened was that Maria and Kevin came on to the Schmoes show in 2013. And Kevin had told me, she's done so many of her shows. This is her favorite show that she's ever done. And I was like, that's
so cool.
It was a huge compliment. It was great. And then we were looking for a home after Toad Hop went away. And so Kevin and I started talking. And I was like, I don't want to put it on AfterBuzz. I want to keep it on Schmoes. And he's like, no, what you do is we'll put it on your channel, but we'll have it from the AfterBuzz studios. And that was our home, but it was very different. AfterBuzz wasn't doing that. The only thing AfterBuzz was doing was all their shows. And then here comes this one renegade show on Thursday nights for 2 hours or so of these people that are not part of the family, but are just like these kind of random
that left their trash everywhere.
That's bullshit. You
left the studio an absolute mess.
We never did that. We always cleaned up. Ken was the one who always made sure it was clean. And
after we complained, Ken's the best.
It's not true. It's not true. But we were I can't remember. It may have been Sarah Stretton who said that we were like the unkempt rock stars of because we're pulling in the serious views. Yeah,
huge numbers.
And it was one of those things. And so when you hear of this show coming in, what's your first thought?
I thought that you guys were, I didn't know who you were. And so I was skeptical because East Coast. So just like, what do they want? What are they doing? Right. And then you guys were loud and messy. I don't care what you say. True. And I got in that fight with Ken about the red light being on versus not being on because he came to tell me to be quiet, and I was like, well, put the red light on, or what, which means that you're on air. And I don't know. I probably thought you guys were a bunch of dick bags, but like I didn't care. I didn't care because Kevin and Maria were so into the idea because you guys were doing really well, and she had loved her time on your show. Right. So I was like, all right, whatever.
And then that day comes. I don't even know how it happened, but I remember Alicia was out for the day. And I don't know, and I remember where...
And Tiff was gone or something.
Tiffany had been kind of in and out, and I don't know how it came up, but Ken and I were
talking... On the tree. You don't remember this part.
What is it? Tell me.
We met at the tree.
I remember this. I remember where we met. We remember because we had that tree in like the West Hollywood.
Park.
Yes, and there was this whole thing, but that wasn't. You didn't win me over there because I was just like.
I thought I did.
No, you were being an asshole that day. Yeah. No, it wasn't. Maybe that's how I first met you, but maybe that's how I suggested you to Ken or Ken. I can't remember, but I said. But the bottom line is that Roxy came in and hosted, and you did exactly what I said previously. The research was there, and I was just like, whoa, this is a professional. She was 23, 24. Yeah. I'm like, but this is someone who's taking this seriously. She was like a Q&A episode or whatever it was, and you just fit like a glove.
You guys brought me in a few times after that. Yeah. It was so cool. And I remember that was a massive game changer for my career because you saw me. It was different. It was the first thing I had done that was not AfterBuzz. Right. And I had never thought I was doing AfterBuzz because Kevin put me on, and I was like, oh, he's probably doing it to me as a favor. but that was the first time that I was like, maybe I'm good at this. Like, maybe people like me. I'm not sure, but maybe I could go for this somehow.
Well, you hung with a crew that had been together for a while. That's what people don't realize, how it's not easy to do. Like, there are people that have come onto, whether it's like Collider Live or whether it's Schmoes, the iteration of it.
Even Brett talks about, like, he missed 1 month and coming back. It's hard.
It's tough because especially if you're sitting in the seat. And I think that the Afterbuzz, the Afterthoughts guys call it the curse of the third chair, right? There are times that people have been sitting with when it was Mark and myself. They're in that chair. You got to pick your moments, and you got to be able to move in there, or you'll get buried. Because Mark and I just have that chemistry. We've been there for a long time.
But also know that you're in the third chair.
Exactly, and you did that brilliantly. And I think that that's why we had you come back. And I think that's why we also kept a conversation. And like Kevin and I, we're real good now. And like anytime you're working with somebody, there's either you don't see eye to eye on certain things, and that happened for a thing with us. And I always thought that you thought maybe that's why they're not, you're not on the show or anything too, but it was just kind of a different.
Why I wasn't on Schmoes?
Yeah, I think there was a time that you were just, because it was just weird at one point. Because then we transitioned into leaving, and we went into 2016. We moved over to Collider, but we split really well with Kevin and Maria and everything too. And like I said, have a great relationship with them now. But I think you got involved again because I know between Ken's relationship, because I had gotten Ken the job at Screen Junkies.
Yeah.
Then he got you hooked up over Screen Junkies.
Yeah. So all of that I think is true. Everything you just said, like where we are now, like I've talked about in life, things change and mold, and sometimes things take time. Kevin is my person. He started me. I still, the Tomorrow Show. I owe him more than anybody I owe in my life. Right. Like because he's a mentor, he's a friend. He's started my career. But you also have done huge, crazy things for my career, and I'm just really glad that I'm able to work with both of you guys, and you guys are good. But then Ken, leave it to Ken, who I know from you, who I know from Kevin.
Right.
Ken comes in and was like, yeah, there's this thing that people have been tweeting your name out for, TV fights, and I think I can get you an audition. Would you want to come in to audition? And I was like, oh my God, this is my first. I wonder if that was I had done some paid hosting stuff, like one-offs, but that would have been my first consistent weekly year contract. It was a year contract.
Wasn't it between you and Roka?
So it was down to, I believe it was between Kathy Kelly, Roka, and myself.
Look at that, okay.
By the way, she got the better end of that
ass.
deal.
Just had her on, yeah.
She's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ken messaged me about it, and I was like, I can't let him down. He already told me I'm like not the front runner for this, but I'm going to come in. So they asked us to bring in 10 TV fight questions. So I brought in 200.
Wow.
And like just.
That was it. Yeah.
They were like, okay, well, this girl can produce, so she'll take work off our plate. So I don't think I was better than the other people. I was probably worse, but they were like.
No, that includes better though.
But if you're greener, you've got to make up for it somewhere else. And I knew that because how am I going to go against people that, Roka's been at this for way longer than me.
Oh, I don't think so.
Really?
I think you've been.
Well, he's been at life longer than me.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't know if he handled the situation perfectly gracefully, though. But
why was he upset?
From what I've heard.
He gets upset.
From what I've heard, he was not particularly thrilled I booked it.
He's a competitive guy, as we found out over the years, for sure.
Yeah.
But you got it.
I did. I got it, and I honestly didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And I was nervous and awkward, and Ken coached me through it and did an amazing job being my producer and friend, which was really important because I needed to feel like I'm part of this whole new platform.
Right, with the Screen Junkies
Plus.
Yeah.
I walk in there, and I'm by far and away, like, Alicia Malone is there, and Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman, and I'm like.
Getting thrown into it.
Yeah, and Black Nerd, and I'm like, who the F am I? Like, what? Okay. And I have
and it's a spin-off of their very popular show, Movie Fights, and now it's TV Fights.
And there's a lot of eyes on me, and I was like, wow, okay, well, they think I can do it.
Yeah.
And that was only a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 4 years ago now or whatever. So
nuts.
That
goes that
3 or 4 years. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of just started falling in place.
Well, okay, I thought you were going to say falling apart, but falling in.
Oh, no, definitely that too.
When all the shit went down, did you just kind of stay away from it, or did you just wait to hear kind of what was going on with the show?
Are you talking about Andy Signore's stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm still the only person to this day who did not tweet about the situation that worked there.
Okay. You wanted to kind of see what happened first before?
It's not that. Because, truthfully, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Truthfully, what happened was I was waiting for somebody from Defy to reach out to me before I gave my statement on Twitter. I was waiting for somebody to reach out to me.
Here's what you should say publicly, that type of thing? Oh.
No. Are you okay?
Oh.
What happened to you?
Oh.
Because I'm one of two women that worked for him as a host.
Oh, right, just to see if anything happened also inside of it. Did anything ever happen?
I definitely didn't not happen.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So I was waiting.
Okay.
And it never came.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to tweet something before I talked to them, and it never came.
Wow.
So
you're not surprised that Defy shut down?
Oh, God, no.
Right.
I remember somebody from Screen Junkies finally called me, and they said, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I said, "Honestly, not really." And they said, "Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll make sure somebody from Defy contacts you." And they never did.
Never did. Well, that's why Screen Junkies is still alive and living at fandom, and Defy is toast.
I'm fine, and it was like, it's not fine, but I was not sexually assaulted by him in the way that other people have come forward, but there were things that happened that through the years that I spoke about and was like really, I didn't speak about publicly, but
uncomfortable. That's it
more than uncomfortable. Okay. Really inappropriate.
Okay.
And I was just waiting. This is the first time I've ever said anything,
yeah,
because this is the first time I've ever been asked about it.
I had no idea.
Literally, I just kept waiting for somebody to ask me.
Okay.
Kind of like earlier in the conversation, going back for 1 second, talking about when I was 14. I'm not a liar, so somebody asks me something, I'm never going to say something didn't happen.
Right.
But you wait your whole, I'm just somebody who kind of waits for somebody to ask me, because I'm always going to tell the truth. But I'm not going to just come out and say something that could hurt the company when they don't get the chance to talk to me about it first.
Right. And then
nobody never came.
Right. So, wow. See, that I did not know. I didn't know.
Never came.
I knew that I knew that that the call never came. I didn't know anything ever inappropriate as far as conversation or whatever happened too.
Yeah, he was a super, super inappropriate guy.
Okay.
And, I have very, very not nice things to say about him.
Okay.
Which it seems like get in line. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot out there at this moment too.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to put you in a position of where, again, as far as legally and all that kind of stuff happens too.
That's another thing. I was like, I don't want to, I spoke off air individually to some of the people who had come forward to let them know that they were not alone if legal ramifications came or whatever, but that I would not be coming public with my story
unless someone asked you.
Unless somebody asked me. Literally, those were my words. Yeah. Unless I'm asked.
Wow, and no one asked you.
And no one ever asked me.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I'm one of two on-air women you had.
And they never asked if anything ever happened.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. Well, it is and it isn't now that you know kind of that they're gone. But it also, like you said, doesn't surprise me that somebody from Screen Junkies reached out because they're still
they care about me
and they're good people.
And he had heard through the grapevine, so he reached out just just making sure. And I was like, actually, I'm not.
Right.
It just was
That's
unbelievable.
Well, but
you think I should keep waiting, or you don't think that they're?
I don't think they're going to call you.
Not going to call.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Got a couple things going on.
Yeah, they probably have to call the bank first. But now you're besides all that though too, it's still you're great on the show. The show had a nice cult following for sure. TV fights. But then
tough to build behind a paywall.
It's just hard. I had Dan Merle on and we talked about it for a while too. I think my thing with that service was that it just I never understood why you'd put panel talks behind a paywall when you could see panel talks anywhere. I get it that Chris Stuckman and Johns and different things, but it's like I just never understood the model. I think when they started making original content, even though they did the Agents of Field stuff and everything too, even though they didn't necessarily go over well with fans, I think that to me, that's more
conceptually you get it.
Yes, that to me makes more of a sense of what you're trying to do. I just never understood why people would pay extra for panel shows when you already have them.
It's also different when you're, if you've built up a following to then put it behind a paywall, but when there's no following for any of the shows, brand new shows, it was tough.
Yes.
It was tough. But the fans were amazing that were there because they're the diehards.
They were diehards and they were loyal. And I remember a lot of people that would have conversations about it, and they were very active. And I did a few of those shows. But regardless, you get your feet wet there. You do that show, and then you do a lot of freelancing stuff. I mentioned this show to you.
2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, the Collider Live, about a year and a half ago, whatever, too, because I knew that once the Schmo show was kind of, because I've told, and I've been on pretty upfront with this, and I told Ellis, and we've had this conversation, I was kind of falling out of love with the Schmo show for a while towards the end of it. I just didn't think it was vibing the same way, and I wasn't on it for a while, and Mark and I just kind of agreed that we just kind of start doing the Harloff and Ellis thing and let us kind of move on. But then as the conversation started with Fernandez about what about like the Schmo show here, and I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, what do we do, like something here, because Collider Live was something that we were doing with these screenings, and I was like, why don't we just call it Collider Live? It's
what are you pointing at?
The Collider Live sign.
Oh,
that Collider Live that's not from this. That's from a Back to the Future screening that we did, but the series was called Collider Live, and I said, well, look, we're gonna be live, and it's just going to be all the personalities. And I said, I just want to do a show to where I don't want to just talk about movies. Like if we don't talk about movies, it'd be great. Let's just do a show. And I said, but I need Roxy, because the original idea of what I wanted to do, I wanted to do it in but it was going to be the desk where the main thing was out of the way. It was just going to be my desk, and then across from me was you. No, excuse me. Towards where the curtain is with the Schmodown, that would be where you are, and then our guest couch would be right in front of me, and then we'd have where the people sit to watch the Schmodown, like that would be where the crew hung out. I thought we were doing like a really big kind of Howard Stern thing, but
I gotta say I still really like that.
I like it too, but the production behind it was too much.
Yeah.
And I would have they thought about it. It was only going to be once a week, and I was like, well, we could do the podcast, because they said, can you do it in here? I said, we can do it in here, but it's got to be. I want to do it longer. I want to do it 2 hours a day. Still want Roxy to be co-host, and we have to just kind of build it. And I think eventually, if we can ever get to that place, luckily enough, we're doing 100,000 views an episode, then probably
5 days a week.
I don't want to do 5 days.
Oh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that maybe we can do that big studio idea. I mean, I want to get out of here eventually, because I think the show deserves it.
Why are we Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Why aren't we Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
2 reasons. One, because I feel like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are the best for like news, and I think people are on the top of their game on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday is also Jedi Council. I don't really want to come here and work in the morning on Fridays. And I also looked at the Howard Stern model, and he does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they do. And because the Afterthoughts, this is one of the main reasons I wanted to move Afterthoughts over to the Collider Live feed, because it's the after show for
Yeah, so it's like having 4 a week almost.
And then we have 4 shows a week, so, but that's.
You just made them so happy to hear that.
Well, I'm glad that I like those guys. I really do.
Me too. Especially one of them.
Real nice. But that's kind of an ongoing bit. But that's, do you, when I asked you to be part of Collider Live, any hesitation?
Yeah.
Yeah?
For sure. Truthfully,
that's why I'm asking you.
A couple of reasons. You and I had an issue, not because of you or I, prior to with
what was it?
With TV Talk.
What did we have? What was our issue? I don't remember. Tell me.
You don't remember?
No, tell me. I probably remember.
I don't think I can tell you on air.
You can't tell me on air?
What was promised to me and promised to you.
Oh, I see. Because TV Talk, I'm thinking TV fights.
TV Talk.
TV Talk. I understand. There was, yes, because we were gonna do an iteration of TV Talk where you were hosting for a lot of it, and back in the day, and it didn't pan out business wise.
Yeah, business wise, it did not pan out.
Yes.
And it was a little messy.
Yes, I definitely 100% remember that. Yes.
And I think that it soured my taste a little bit, and also I felt very bad because I think that Makuka was upset with me because of that. And so, it just changed the dynamic a little bit. And then when you were talking about it changed also from being a nighttime thing once a week to a morning thing 3 times a week, which is different commitment levels. And, you know, also when we talked about it, you guys were moving to
Beverly Hills,
which is where I lived, and then you guys were here. So it just changed. Like my hesitation came from logistics.
Well, you know what I did? I gave you a taste.
Yeah.
Once you got a taste, you were locked.
Yeah. Well, actually, I gave you a taste because I was like, you know what? I'm going to do these first few episodes.
Well, but as tastes, I always knew I wanted you though.
And I knew I wanted to be a part of it. It was none of my hesitation ever came from co-hosting a show with you.
Right.
It all came.
You never
from
worried about how the vibe was going to be?
No, because no.
Right.
I guess no, just because no.
No.
Because anytime we've ever interacted.
So Snelling's wrong. We could hang out.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Right,
and we do. And like that's why like if we're at a screening and I'm there and you're there at times, we'll sit next to each other, we'll hang because I like you. Like I want to spend time with you because you're my friend. Right. So no, I wasn't worried ever about that. But and actually one of my questions for you, which I'll save till later, has to do with it though. But like you just work with a ton of your friends and that's very challenging.
It is.
It's very challenging.
Yeah. And we'll get to that in a second too, because do got to wrap it up in a second. But I know the fans would be like, oh, they didn't bring that up once. You mentioned it briefly. You said that your relationship life is DOA. We have mentioned it many times. My good friend, friend of the show, friend of the Schmodown, Ben Bateman.
He's been my best friend for years.
Very long time.
Yeah.
Can we say what the official status of the relationship is?
Yeah, I mean, because it's not a secret.
Yeah.
So Ben and I had been together for almost 3.5 years, and it's no secret to people that we, for the last 8 months, have been struggling. And this month, Ben decided that part of it was mutual, and part of it was not, that he needed to leave. Yeah. Because we live together. So, I mean, leave, like, our home. So we're not together. I don't know what the future holds. I'm very, very much in love with him. Yeah. I believe he's very, very much in love with me. So that's very challenging for us. And it's sad. Honestly, I feel nothing but sad about it. And I love him and have not a bad word to say about him.
And that's why I bring this up, because the reason why this conversation started when we were at a screening together and we were talking about it, and we both brought up. You brought up, the passing of your mom. I brought up the passing of my brother, and then we talked about how this situation felt like a loss, and it's a mourning. And because I'll be completely transparent with everybody here too. I had conversations about Roxy and Ben, and I don't. When they're ready, if they are ever ready to talk about the extent of their relationship, then that day will come. This isn't about to dive into that. It's to relate to loss, because that's really what we've been talking about in this particular episode.
It's hard. I mean, and people will message me, and I've seen this on Twitter or on Collider Live or whatever, being like, he probably left you because you're a bitch, and it's like, I can't possibly explain to you guys how, or to you, Kristian, or whoever's listening, how emotionally devastated I am right now. Yeah. Like getting up and I play no games. I don't have it left in me anymore. Right. So, some people would say, go on there and say, you're doing amazing. He's probably listening. So I don't want to.
And he knows.
And he knows.
Yeah.
I professionally had just about as great of a week that week, which we broke up 2 weeks ago, as I possibly could have, with my face being next to Sharon Osbourne's on Huffington Post, the Ron Perlman interview, like everything. Right. Just I was asked by Doug Benson to go on his show, which I've been trying to do for years. Just everything kept landing, and so professionally, I'm fine, and that's great. But when there's a hole in your heart, there's nothing out. You can't breathe, and it's even harder because I believe he's my soulmate. Right. So
it's just very hard. Again, like you said, equating it back to loss is that you have this love for so long, and then it's just gone.
It's gone, and I'm dealing with the logistics. Yeah. We share things together: furniture, money, an apartment, like having to find a new home. Your best friend's gone. Like even little things like, he's been texting me like, only you would appreciate this, blank, whatever. Because, of course, we've been together forever. Right. But like you and I talked about earlier, going on our journeys, sometimes you're not okay.
Right.
And even when something is right, you personally are not okay.
No, and you know how I can understand that, and this is one of those things too, is that for me, and I deal with everything, whether it's a fault, with sarcasm and jokes.
Yeah.
And I do it all the time. And you walked in, I think, like 2 days later after you, and I was trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, you called me.
You said you stepped out of the Matrix because you were wearing like this. You were wearing like
I think it was this.
It was similar to this, yeah. And I said, oh, it's Neo, and you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, the Matrix, and you're like, not today.
Yeah.
Or you're like, today's not today. And I was just right away. I was like, I knew. And then I was like following you around like a puppy dog because I wanted to make sure you were okay.
Fine, and it doesn't matter.
But that's what I'm saying though, is like you don't realize it because that's unless you're going through it. And when you're going through it's awful.
Day, every day. You know, you have to get up. You have to do your job. You have to be a family member. You have to be a friend. Yep. But it's impossible to like be a full person. And yeah, I hope he only gets love from this. I hope nobody says anything mean. I'm sure people are going to do what they're going to do, but
I mean, again, that's it. This is what happens in relationships. I hope. Yeah. I mean, will there be morons? Always, there's always morons. But I think that what I love about this story in general is the respect from both of you guys, the love that is clearly there, for one reason or not. That won't be discussed in the show right now. It's just you're just not there. One reason or another.
Right now it just can't be.
No.
And so that is what it is.
I think that's something that should be celebrated in a certain aspect, to where it's just like those are two people who it's mature. It's like, you work in the same space. So I think it should be applauded more than anything else. I mean, not the demise of the relationship, obviously, but the fact of the way that you're both handling it, I think it should be applauded, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope so. I do have nothing but respect for him. I'm brokenhearted, and I have to move forward and on, but I'll always care about him.
Well, good. And same here, because you guys are both, your family, both of you guys, and obviously he's got a show here, you have a show here, you're all the time, and I believe that because I know both of you, it'll mend one way or another. However it will, we'll find that out.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing.
Tuned.
I know. Thank you for sharing all this stuff too. And there's so much more that we could talk about, but because we're almost out, and you're going to be doing a full one-on-one with me.
Yeah, I know. And so I don't want to use any of my. I've been thinking about. I wanted to take notes during this too, but I'll just listen back to it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have so many questions for you.
So let's start. I'm going to give you 2 today.
Okay.
And then you're going to have a whole hour and 15, hour and 20 when you do a one-on-one with me. We're taping it next week, so I don't know when we're going to actually air it, but we'll see.
When are we taping it? Do we figure it out?
I don't know. When we tape, I don't know. We'll figure it out after this. All right. What do you got?
I'm talking about working with your best friends.
Yeah.
Because like 5 people here are considered your best friends. What do you think is the crappiest friend move you've had to do so far? Because it was business, Kristian.
Crappiest friend move, or what do you mean, like? Like,
what was the business decision that you had to make that ended up screwing your friend? Like, as your friend, you didn't want to do it.
Easily when we had to let Ken and Makuga go the first time, I hated that.
Were you in the room for that?
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful, and that's why I'm trying. Like, right away, got Ken on Jedi Council and found a way to get Makuga back in on Collider Live. I want Grace back on the Schmodown, like, badly, but it had to be. I mean, Complex there was only so much Mark could handle financially. Fernandez could handle financially. So like there was, at the time we didn't have Collider Live. We weren't doing TV talk. We really didn't have it. And the Awesome Tacular was where Ken and Makuga were really working. We didn't have the show anymore. It was gone. So there was nowhere. The meetings that we had as far as like,
how to move,
who to keep, how it works, like what he can handle, as far as, because taking it on independently, not having backing anymore and going through all that and having to sit in that room, with Josh and Ken. It was after all. I mean, Ken and I have been through a lot together. Ken and I have been, running together since the stand-up days in like 2004, 2003, around that time.
And you pulled him over here from Screen Junkies.
Yes, so. He was at Schmo. He was working at his job in when he was working security, and I called him up because Andy at the time had told me that they were looking for a producer, and I said, Ken, and he's like, you think Ken would want to do it? I said, yeah, Ken. I was like, let me talk to Ken. I said, Ken, I think I got you a good gig if you want to get out of this thing, and he took the Screen Junkies thing, but it hurt me that I had to
bring them over to
well, in general, because I didn't at the time. Remember, I was doing the show at Afterbuzz, so I didn't have a budget, and it wasn't working anywhere. I was freelancing stuff. I didn't have a home. And then as soon as I started kind of getting in, seeing more of a managerial role at Collider, I said, I got to find a way to get Ken. Like, I need Ken. And then once Awesometacular came in, I was like, we got to get Ken. And so, I poached him and I got him back. So so it was, that's why right away I wanted him on Jedi. And I said, he's so good independently doing his own thing. I just wish that, something else would land for him, something big, because he's one of the
broadcasting. You mean?
In general, he's just one of the most talented people I know.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's why I was glad to get Makuga back.
The follow-up to that is, do you feel like it has impacted your friendship with either of them?
Not that particular, because they knew that wasn't necessarily my call. It's in general, and I don't even think they would hold anything against Fernandez. I think that they knew it was they both knew it was a business move.
When you said not that
moment. Not that moment. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm just talking about
working in general,
being their boss, essentially.
Maybe so with Ken. But it's also, I'd also say that takes more of a family thing for me. I mean, my life is, I'm here, and then I'm either at a screening or I'm home. Like, I'm not weekends. People ask me to go. I get invited to stuff on the weekends all the time. I don't do anything on the weekends except.
You want no more weekend invites?
I mean, I want them. I just,
you want to be invited to Boston night, but you don't want to go to Boston night.
I want to go to Boston. I just can't go to Boston night because a lot of times it's harder right now. My wife and I do not have help. My wife is with my kids all day long, and we don't have any help. I don't have financially enough to be able to get a nanny and all this stuff too. And my wife would probably never want that anyway. So the weekends that's when I'm around. That's when I'm there. I'm Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'm with the kids, and so that's usually when people are doing stuff. So it's hard for me. So my relationship with those guys, I'm not like Ken and Makuga and I would go drinking after every schmo show. We'd have a drink, and that would help as well too. I'm not doing that as much anymore.
Well, it's also not at night.
It's also not at night.
Yeah.
And I think you just get older. The thing is funny is that because I still work with Ken every Thursday and on the Schmodown. I see Makuga 5 days a week because he's here. So
it feels like you're still.
That's I think the benefit of working with your friends.
Yeah, it just must be challenging.
Yeah,
it's a hard dynamic.
Yeah.
I think you guys have done a really good job. You, Mark, Ken, Makuga, Riley, of all just.
Cody, Cobster.
Yeah. But being around and being friends. Cody, Cobster, for sure.
You want one more? Or you want to save it?
Well, my things are about your family, so we gotta save it because I have all different follows.
Okay, we'll save it.
I'm so curious about old Kristian and transitioning into being married Kristian with kids and your life and movement there.
I didn't think I could do it.
I know.
I didn't think I could do it, but we'll talk about.
I can't wait to talk about it.
We'll save it. Roxy Striar, you're the best.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I finally got asked.
You finally did it, and I'm so glad you did because it was a hell of an interview. I learned a lot about you.
Had a weird life, right?
I wouldn't say weird. It's a struggle. It's been a struggle.
The struggle's real.
The struggle's real, yo. And you did it. And I'm very proud of you.
Oh my gosh!
I'm very proud of you.
You get to be proud.
I get to be proud of you. No, I don't. Not from because I haven't been on your whole journey with you.
You don't get to be proud of not being a dickhead anymore.
Right.
But you get to be proud that I am booking and sitting here.
Yes. Well, what was the words you used? I'm
impressed.
I'm impressed by you.
Oh,
I'm very impressed.
I'm impressed by you too.
All right, well, good. Follow Roxy Striar at Roxy Striar. And you find her on Collider Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday watching firework hammer videos. And we will catch you next week on the show. I don't know who I'm going to have on. I have a lot of great guests, but leave some comments. Be nice to people, and we'll see you next time. That was it. That was the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're joining us for the first time on Collider Video, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, do all that stuff. And remember, this is also on iTunes. If you're listening to iTunes right now, pull over and then rate it, subscribe it, do all that stuff. Hit pause on the treadmill for a second and let us know what you think about these shows, and we will continue to make more of them. You can find all your favorite shows from Collider on iTunes on the Collider Podcast Network. Thank you very much. See you next time.